Okay. Good digging, unfinished work, recording.
Okay.
I'd like to call to order the December 5th, 2023 Columbia Borough Council Workshop. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilperson Zink.
Here.
Councilperson Kaufman.
Here.
Councilperson Starr.
Here.
Councilperson Fisher. Here. Councilperson Price. Here. Councilperson Littner. Here. Councilperson Card.
Here.
Mayor Lewis.
All right. Would anybody like to offer an invocation? If you'd like, please join us right in room. Councilperson McGard, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcement of executive and information sessions. There were none. Are there any additions, deletions, or reorganizations needed? I'm not aware of anything. No? Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as published? I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Price to approve the agenda as published. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Citizen comment, non-agenda items only. The first lineup we have is Susan Wickenheiser. Yeah, that's you.
Hi. I was just curious. I live out at 12th and Franklin, and my property adjoins the McGinnis Airport property on two sides. And I had been in contact with Mr. Stivers off and on since March, and I haven't heard anything recently. I was just curious if there were any updates on what's happening out there.
You want us to take that?
Sure. So it took us longer than we expected to get the boundary survey completed. We wanted to get that done. We are working on several of the final determinations of the boundary survey. One of them is yours with the little triangle next to your property. So you are next on our list to come talk to get that resolved out so we can get that final boundary
Among the
resolved.
neighbors, there's been questions about a meeting to inform the neighbors. Is that still on the agenda?
Absolutely. Yeah, we wanted to get everything done and ready so we could present the final information on what's going to happen out there.
Okay. Before spring?
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. That's what I
Thanks.
wanted to know.
And Paul and Cheryl Wendell.
Just need a minute.
Hi, we just moved here from Philly. We love the town. Can't believe it's happening. It's great. But every time I look out my front window and I'm at 350 in the flats, that tower is getting on my nerves, the clock tower. Can anybody fix that clock tower? It's just wrong. It's 5 minutes, one of them's 5 minutes off, the other one's right. And I walked around today, and the other one, I couldn't even tell what time it was.
It's broken.
So the southern exposure is broken. The issue that we're having is the clock mechanism is very old. It's the way it was described to us, it isn't really a true mechanism. It was just cobbled together with a bunch of parts, none of which you can buy. So we have to, anything that we do, we have to have parts custom made. So we investigated several years ago about changing all the guts out of it and putting in an electronic clock system that from the outside in the face you wouldn't see. You wouldn't know the difference. But the inside, all those parts would all be just taken out and electronic system put in. So we held that 2 years ago, just looking at budget numbers, because we had it in a capital fund that was utilized for the market house. So we're trying to balance the funds and figuring out how to get the money to do get that project together, but we'll take a look at that, and we can reset the time and everything, we'll try to do something.
Okay, great, yeah, it just kind of screams like we don't care or we don't know how to fix it.
We do care, we do know, it's just very expensive and difficult.
Yes, all right, yeah, I understand.
So-
Nobody else knew. I asked the people over there. They said, I don't know.
I actually just met with the director of the Watching Clock Museum, Roy McBoy, and he's gonna come down with his expert and come look at it for us and see if they can work on it until we can get a time to get parts and pieces swapped out or get the whole guts replaced.
Okay,
Mayor worked on that
that's it.
already.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Littleton not here, Chief Romer, anything this evening?
Nothing. Thank you.
All right. The first item for the workshop, we have discuss and review the board/commission appointments, who's up for reappointment. We can just go down through the list here. Civil Service Commission, we have up for reappointment is John Meshi and Jim Ansbach. Have we heard from either of them?
I don't know, do you know if Pam got a hold of them and verified that?
My knowledge, you both want to continue on the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Parks and Rec, we had said previously that Kurt and Sylvia are up for reappointment, and they are not seeking reappointment. And we did still have one vacancy, is that correct? So we will, and we have not received any applications, correct?
No new ones, no, we did the
No
one
new
appointment, 1 week, 2 weeks ago, we had one new appointment, that was it.
Yeah, so we've had, well, we had those two
And one other gentleman to the park.
and 3, and then we still had Liz and
Oh,
Hope, and there's another one.
What is her first name? Angela?
Angela,
Thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So that gives us,
That would give us 6 with that.
that's 6, so there's still,
We're still good, we're still aboard.
so we're still good even without these 2, but we still have one more vacancy that we could fill. So if anyone knows anyone for Parks and Rec, we have one place we can point there. Planning Commission, Mary Wickenheiser is up for reappointment.
I know that name.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know.
Recognize it.
Do we want to look at her attendance record?
We may want to.
We might want to look at that.
Go back to 2012. Go back to 2012.
So, I mean, Mary, you're here. Did you want to say anything? Does anyone have any questions for Mary as we consider her reappointment?
I just want to say thank you.
No, I took over when Ginny Aubenshine resigned, and I feel that those were big shoes to step into. And I felt very blessed and proud to be able to say I'm a member of the Columbia Borough Planning Commission, and I would like to continue in that position, which I've been a member of since 2012. And if I may, while I'm up here in my position as chair, Nathan is here this evening. Nathan was our first alternate appointment to Planning Commission. And I don't know if Nathan wants to say a few words, but I am very thankful that we have someone in that alternate position who has been a part of planning for the last several months to be able to move into it. And I know sometimes he was very anxious to place a vote, but as an alternate. So I know that he is very anxious to become a full member of the planning. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yep, that was going to be my next question. We also have Kelly Murphy up for reappointment. However, since he has been elected to council, he is not seeking reappointment to the Planning Commission. There was some confusion. We thought they were incompatible offices, but they are not. So he could continue to serve, but we felt it best that he do one, so he is going to be on council, not on planning. So Nate, are you willing to become the full member instead of the alternate, if that's what we decide to do? Or is there anything you would like to say?
I don't have anything to say, but I'm happy to answer questions, and yes, I am willing.
All right. So, but we, how many alternates did we say we could have, Mary?
I think 3.
2 or 3?
2 or 3, I'd have to look. I know, I keep thinking it's 3 because we always went with an odd number.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's what I want to say too. But, so we could, if people are still interested, we can have alternates. We can have applications for alternates to the planning commission as well. So there's that. Does anyone have any questions for Nate?
Just thank you for being willing to serve.
Yes, thank you. Shade Tree Commission, Evans, and she does not wish to be reappointed. We did have an application previously. Mark had reached out to her to see if she was still interested, and we did not get a response back. So we do not have anyone currently to appoint to the Shade Tree Commission. So if anyone knows anyone that would like to serve on the Shade Tree Commission, have them get an application, and we would love to have them. And you gotta like trees a lot, because they do a lot of stuff with trees. The vacancy board. Bill Cloyd, he's been our vacancy board for a lot of years. He's willing to go another term. He's not here, but I think we've all had enough experience with Bill. I mean, it's only invoked in the event that we're not able to appoint someone to a council seat. So, William Locker Trust, Bill Cloyd is also up for reappointment to that, and he has said that he will run again for that, that he is willing to be reappointed to that. The William Locker Trust meets one time a year. And then we have Zoning Hearing Board. There are 3 that are up for reappointment: David Rumbaugh, Steve White, and Terry Ann Douthrick. I see we have Steve here. The other 2 are not here. Does anyone have any questions for Steve? Any questions for Steve? Anyone have any thoughts in general? Did we get any other applications for zoning hearing board? No? All right.
Does he want to say anything?
Yep. Steve, did you want to say anything? I know this year the zoning hearing board, you guys have not been required very much.
Yes, it would be an honor if you'd still consider me to be on the zoning board. I think zoning is a very important board in our community because the decisions that are rendered are long-lasting. They are, the term, I'm sure, borough manager knows, grandfather. So the decisions that that board makes stays with the community in perpetuity, hundreds of years, you could say. So it would be an honor if I could still serve on that board.
Thank you. And we still have one alternate on that board as well, correct? All right. Anyone have any questions on any of these boards? Anyone else? Any other questions, concerns, or comments on these items?
So my only question to council is, do you want this queued up for the 12th, or you want to do these on the 28th, make the appointments? I know you don't know the full schedule per se of what's going on in these meetings, but you can have it ready for either one.
Sooner the better.
Yeah.
So I figured, all right, we'll get these in.
That was kind of my thought, but I said, let's ask council at the meeting, because if they wanted time to review anything else, or they had any other questions, I wanted to be able to, give time.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll put that on for next week.
Okay.
Because the goal is kind of to have the meeting on the 28th, which is a Thursday. It's one of those odd Thursday meetings. We want that meeting to be as, short as possible, because no one really wants to be here. Because after Christmas. So, but I mean, we have to be here to pay the bills anyway, but, All right. Review of the draft fee schedule. Mark, I will have you take it away.
So I appreciate that we go through this on an annual basis to look at it. I think the last 2 years, we've made some rather significant changes. You remember, we've been working on getting as many of the fees out of the ordinance as we can into the fee schedule. I think we've caught them all now. If we miss a couple, we'll find them. There's only 2 changes. One, I apologize, I missed and did not get it in. Chief Palmer has asked that we add a vehicle storage fee at $25 a day. So that will be added in to the draft version that you'll be looking at for adoption. The other one is on page...
Will that go under the police fees?
Under the police, other police fees. Yeah. And the only other one that we did change, and this is one that Jake and I had talked about, and that is the handicap parking signs. With the addition of the panel or the smaller panel that goes underneath the main sign that lists their license number or permit number, we just want to be able to cover the cost of those. So we're asking to increase the fee for the handicap signs to $125.
Is that going under each handicap sign or only the people who request that space now as their?
We're going back. We want to make sure it's on every sign that goes forward, and we're going backwards to try to catch them all and get those panels put up for everyone.
Okay.
Because of all the issues we've been having with the current way we do it, anyone with a handicap placard or a plate can park in any of those signs or any of those designated spaces by law, unless that law changed in 18, 19, unless it's specifically designated for an individual vehicle. But because our residents pay for it, I don't want to get Eric all fired up again, but I feel like if you pay for that sign to have it in front of your house, you should have the right to use that space. So,
Okay, so do they still have to request that though, when they renew? I thought that's how it was going to work, that they have to request it, but they don't necessarily.
so I think we're going to go around and do the old ones, get the other
We're
ones.
gonna work the old ones in, we'll phase them in over time.
Yeah,
Any new ones now that start coming out, we'll have.
we'll have everything on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So those are the only 2 changes we have this year on the fee schedule that I have.
Can I ask a question? We have a separate fee schedule for the collections work that we have been doing for you.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to add that into you, that's not a separate fee schedule and it's just all in one document?
That was added in last year, so it is part of our current schedule.
Yeah, I thought we
Did I
had
miss it?
already had it incorporated. Let's see.
So it starts on page 2 and goes through page 3, and it has the resolution that we adopted under 2114 and all your collection fees.
Oh, there it is, okay, yep, all right, sorry, I didn't, I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I thought I remembered that we had added those in there, so.
Yep. For that very reason.
Yep, so that it's all.
Yep, that's my fault.
What did you say the vehicle storage fee was?
$25.
Fine.
Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I do.
Yes, yes, Frank.
Frank Downtree. There was another one, Mark, that I discussed earlier. I can't find it, but I did see it when I was going through this at home on the inspection fees, not inspections, but the licensing. And I see somebody, somehow it was changed to $100 a single unit and $25 for every one after that. I can't seem to find it.
It's in there.
I'm sorry.
Yes, under code fees and then.
What page is that on?
Good.
2.
2? Can't find it.
Code compliance fees, yeah, page starts on page 2.
112-6.
So how do you do that? Do you take a poll through the computers and say, this is what we're going to do, being it's already on the sheet? Or who was in charge of alone changing that? I thought that was going to be discussed with the board.
What you're looking at, Frank, is the rental inspection fee, and that change we put in last year. That was already adopted.
Yeah, that was the one.
That was already approved a while ago. What we had talked about last time with you, I thought, was the registration fee.
Yeah, it was a registration fee.
Yeah, this is, we didn't change that.
You didn't change
What
it.
we have in there is for the inspection fee is per unit.
Okay, but I thought maybe you would look at that because that was a change, that was a way of raising revenue.
We did look at that, and we feel like that's not a direction we want to go at this time, unless council directs otherwise. That's not something that we are ready to adopt at this point.
Would that not help pay the person that you're hiring?
The inspection fees cover that cost more than the registration fees do.
Well,
That person's
regardless, it's a way of paying for that person.
Sure. That's up to council, how they want to do that. I feel like the registration fee is more of an administrative fee to register your property. Inspection fee is where you're actually going into each unit and looking at it. That's why we charge that fee for that.
They're probably both important, but today I just thought, well, we're always looking, to raise the fee. Here's a chance that it's so unbalanced. To me, it just, and I'm part of it. I have one rental.
Sure.
So, I just, okay.
Thanks, Frank.
Well, and I think when we did the exercise to look at what each department, the net cost of it,
Mhm.
codes was actually over by enough, and that's why we could
Code
hire.
generates, yeah, in
Yeah.
that department alone, code generates revenues enough to cover the cost of their personnel currently.
What was the position that we hired?
We are hiring a position that's primarily focused on being the zoning officer, that this person will also be cross-trained to do code enforcement, but their primary role is for a zoning officer.
I like that word, cross-train. I like that. And it was stated at the last meeting that you can't, I guess, take in more than what the position takes, but where does this say that at? Where are we
That's
bound?
that's in the borough code.
Okay.
I think you're correct.
It
So
is.
we
I
can't-
forget what chapter it is.
Yeah, we
but it's in
can't
the borough
generate a
code.
profit. Our costs and fees have to be related to the cost of doing business.
Okay.
Yeah, the only way that council can generate revenue is through the use of property tax. And then there's a few ancillary taxes that we can also charge, but you can't generate revenue based on fees for service.
I had a question on, under the street excavation fees. The last one in that section is a penalty for no permit issued when working on the job of $25. And I was just thinking, well, I wanted to clarify, is that if a street is being open? Or in which case would that be issued? In what case?
Bottom page 6, top page 7.
No,
Bottom,
page
yes,
7.
top of page 7.
Top of page 7.
7. Third
Oh.
one.
Jake, do we ever issue those?
I'm not aware of any of them ever issue for somebody not having a permit.
Do we ever see situations where the water company or the gas company, anyone's doing the street opening and not coming in for a permit?
Yeah, just got one the other day.
So then we should have that, we should be
Right.
given that penalty.
But I was able to stop them before they started anything.
Well, that's good.
So, because what happens is, like, I get the PA on call, so I know who's digging, and then I have this whole list of all the permits that keeps me updated with, and, like, if I don't see that, then I have a question.
Good. That's perfect.
And the only times that they can is if it's an emergency. And they're supposed to be in within like a business day to
Yeah.
submit that.
Maybe we can change the wording on that line to make it more clear what it's for.
Yeah, I was just thinking it probably is worth having that fee higher just for the degradation that's going to the street. But
Your other permits, your fees are generally, if you do it without the permit, work without the permit, it's double
the
the
permit
permit fee. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but $25 isn't a good enough stick to get people to not do this.
Right. But if it never happens, then
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't really matter then.
Well, look, it probably doesn't hurt to have it raised up. but-
Well, right, we should probably have it consistent with all the other ones, double the permit fee.
It's the problem with somebody with a street up.
Well, yeah.
And with repair. That cost can get extravagant.
Mhm.
I mean, we do have a degradation fee that's prorated based on when the street was paved,
Mhm.
which that would be included in the, they would get the permit and pay the degradation fee.
Mhm.
Jake, can you clarify if they would have had the PA1 call? They wouldn't have if you didn't have them on the list, right? Or how would that be?
Well, if they're gonna go dig, they gotta put them on call in 3
Right.
days in advance.
Right.
So I get that because we mark the storm water pipes. So when I see that one call for, this instance was on North Third Street, it's like, I go look at my list, because it doesn't ring a bell to me, that address.
Okay.
And then, so that's when, then I contact them about it.
I see. I just want to make sure they weren't digging without the PA1 call, because then that could be a catastrophe. If they started
Right, well,
digging it up.
yeah, and sometimes that does happen, but that's on them, because if they hit something, I wish they would have called.
So we can look at that if you want. Do you know what other municipalities charge for that?
I do not.
Okay. See if we can find something, if we can increase that fine.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, just to be consistent, for any other ones, penalties we have, it's double the permit fee. I would say the same here. I mean, they're just lucky at this point that Jake's been able to catch them before they dug to get the permits.
Ask a question, another question. How is the permit fee, how is that generated? The cost of the job or what? How do they determine it?
It's on the fee schedule, there's a minimum fee of $100 for any street opening, and then there is the a trench fee for all trenches of $1 per linear foot, and then there's also a degradation fee based on the age of the street.
Okay, that makes sense, okay. Thank you.
So if the minimum fee is 100, if you want to just double it, the penalty for not getting a permit would be 200.
Yep. And then I think we should, Pierre's right, I think, we should change the wording on that line, just to say penalty for street opening with no permit.
Yeah.
That way it just clarifies what that fee is for. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, under pets, page 1. $40 to euthanize a dog. $50 for cremation. That's good prices.
Yeah.
Those prices were negotiated with the Columbia Animal Hospital. I can tell you they are rarely, if ever, used. We do not euthanize.
Because I didn't pay that, I paid a lot more than that.
I know.
I'm just waiting for you now.
You're just gonna sit them out on the street corner.
I thought maybe they went to
Stop
farm or
Be
something.
impounded first, right?
Cut his tag out. Let it breathe.
Gotta find that chip.
Would the shelter still honor these prices, do you think?
Yeah, I will follow up with them on that. We haven't had a conversation with them regarding those fees.
We might
in a
want
while.
to,
Yes,
yeah.
thank you.
Great. Next, Eric.
Well, let's go where nobody wants to go.
There's a speed reader there.
That's all.
Are you sure?
I'm not giving it to them. That's fine.
All right.
Okay, I will. Handicap parking. Some of these signs faded and wear out. We don't have a cost to replace signs. That's free.
Not currently.
That's what I'm asking.
We do not. We have an annual renewal fee, that's
That's a
it.
renewal for the parking plan.
Yeah.
That's the sign.
How often do you change them out, Dave? I mean, it's not,
And signs are typically good for 5 years. Some of that just depends where they're positioned, where the sun hits them.
Right.
They'll fade quicker. but-
That sounds about right.
So 5 years at $20 is $100, which is the same as the initial application. So I would say that that covers it.
or just get, we can have a sign replacement fee if you guys want to go there.
The yearly renewal takes some admin work, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So that's, the $20 goes towards
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I know there's 6 on my street. One-way street is half a block long. 3 of them are sun faded. I just wondered if we do change them, or if they call and request a change. I didn't know how that worked.
What's the average sign? It's like $35, $40 for the sign and stuff.
The 12 by 18 sign, I think right now they're like $25 or $26. And they really went up in the last few years.
Do you want to add that in?
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no,
Sign
it's a
replacement, $40. That covers our costs and
Yeah.
the cost of installation. What do you think? You gotta have a thought, Eric.
I mean, I think we're going to be putting signs up and replacing them. That's a heck of a deal. Going down there.
I'd say $50.
50?
Sign costs about $20, you said, $25?
25 and then the hard time to put it out.
One guy, what's the hourly rate for a guy?
Mhm.
$20 average, perhaps, maybe?
We charge 75 to move it, so 50 to replace it. That makes sense.
Yeah. All right. We'll add that on there.
Thank you.
Any other questions or proposals on the fee schedule? All right, moving right along. Discussion on the RAC P Phase 2 projects. Mark, you want to remind us why we're looking at this?
For council, for the audience, for the public, We applied for and received state funding for the renovation of the Market House. And when we applied for that funding, the project was broken up into 2 phases. Phase 1 was the renovation of the Market House, which is complete now. Phase 2 was written broadly to be for parking and for economic development in the downtown. So we have the opportunity to look at how we want to spend the second half of that money. It's a 50-50 match, and we have just around $500-some thousand of grant money we have to spend. So doubling that is about $1 million worth of total projects that we have to look at to meet our match. We don't have to meet it exactly per state regulations, but we have to be close.
What's the allowed usage again?
Economic development and parking in the downtown. Parking related improvements. So one of the things that Chief Brom and I talked about was getting the license plate readers and the enforcement equipment and software to pair or marry with Park Mobile, so that we can get mobile handheld devices for the parking enforcement and license plate readers on the enforcement vehicles to help improve the enforcement of the Park Mobile app. So that's built in there. We had originally talked about, and this came out of the parking study that was done, is one of the issues we have is people don't know where the parking lots are. So one of the recommendations from that study was to look at wayfinding signage to direct people to the public parking spaces. So we have that built in there. We also added in, and I really like this idea of monument signs at 3 key locations coming into town to say welcome to Columbia. We have those built in there. We have talked for a while now about getting a digital information sign down at Columbia Crossing to post critical information. It came up last year or the year before when we talked about river safety. And there's times there's high water and you want to close it off. We can post that on that digital sign down there. So we have that put in there. We have looked at, and Derek right now is double checking these numbers about improving the parking and the ADA access in the back here off of Market Street. What we'd like to ensure is that we have a clear, safe ADA pathway from the bus stop all the way to the Market House area and into Borough Hall. We want to improve Sadie Lane. And what we had talked about, again, a couple years ago, thinking that we would have already had the money by now for this, was to make that a dual use space. It's used parking right now, primarily for the police department right now. Then on special occasions, we close off the street and make it open for event space when the market wants to bleed out into the alleyway. So we want to get that done. Create Columbia has approached us about putting interactive lighting over top of the alleyway back here on Sadie Lane that would attach between the Market House and Borough Hall. So during evenings or special events, the interactive LED lighting would be put up, and it would react to live music, it would react to digital music, it would react to people out there, whatever you want to set it to. So we looked at getting a price for that. We talked about doubling the parking down on Commerce Avenue, and that was related to the Walnut Street project. We put a number in to do that, and we have talked about and looked at increasing the number of bike parking stations around town. So we'd like to put up, I'll say branded bike parking racks around town, in downtown. So all those seem to, by our consultant, fit that, but we are still short of around $236,000 in projects to close the gap. One other suggestion that staff came up with is we are investigating right now the aging of the Columbia Crossings building, and it's going to meet, don't be looking that way, the tree needs some maintenance, and so we're looking at, Derek is looking at it right now to see what it's gonna cost to do some maintenance on that building. So we were wondering if we want to wrap that in there. The maintenance of, some of the wood members are starting to show some aging and wear from the weather, so Wilson's down there, looked at it. C.S. Davidson is investigating right now to see if there's anything that needs to be done to do some maintenance on that building. We'll see if we can wrap that into this cost. The other one that I don't have on this list right now, but that we did talk about, we're trying to get costs on that as well, is unfortunately, as many of you know, the top roof section, the monitor roof on the Market House, has had leak issues. We had a quote to get that fixed. We're updating that quote right now to get some good numbers on that. We want to put that in here to get that sun skylight monitor roof repaired on the Market House. That's probably going to be a $100,000 project to get that fixed.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was overlooked when the Market House was done. Everything was focused on the inside, and so it was just kind of patched up there, but not really repaired completely. And so, you know, every so often they go up and they re-caulk it, but it leaks. I think
You want to get the roofing company up there and fix it
properly.
Mark, could I ask,
Yeah.
with it being a 50-50 match, where will our other half come from? What fund or?
The money for this is the match money we're getting back from phase one.
Okay, because that's where I was going with this. If we didn't get that money, I wondered how we're going to put money into this, because how long will it take till we get our money from the state? Like, this has been like 3 years waiting, right, for the money?
Correct, which is why we haven't done any of these yet.
Okay.
The last step in actually getting those funds released are locking down real numbers for phase two.
Okay.
So the state needs how we're gonna spend the phase two money locked in so they can release phase one.
Because I just wondered, because if we keep spending it like we did with the market and stuff, and we don't get the match.
Yeah, we can't spend any of this until we get that match.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
One other suggestion that I had that I was looking around was that there are, I know of several just in, you know, these couple of block areas, curbs at specifically alleys that are not ADA compliant, that I thought would be a good thing to get those, as many of those done as we can. The ADA ramps and the bumpies, what are they, detectable warning strips?
Truncated domes, the more technical term.
The stick-on bumpies, wherever they're needed, and those kinds of things, because that's important. I mean, that's not just economic development, but that also encourages our elderly and handicapped from, you know, the high rises to get into town as well, and gives them a safe place, safe travel. I thought that was one of the things. But we have to look at how many there actually are. I mean, I'm specifically thinking of the one,
Cherry and Third?
No.
no,
Avenue
between,
I.
on Fourth, between Cherry and Locust.
Mm.
There, right there,
Avenue I.
because that is like, that drop is like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty big. So those kinds of things we could think about. It is, it's like huge.
You get a little parachute.
I know, I was like, I was looking for a handrail when I was walking over to the car show. But, oh, and something else I thought of, I don't know if this fits or doesn't fit, but, you know, one of the complaints we often hear from citizens and everything is that stinking light at Fourth and Locust,
Amen.
when you were going
Yeah.
north-south, you can sit there forever I don't know what it would take to get that, if it's, what kind of sensor it is, if it's, or how it needs reconfigured, but that is definitely a thorn in a lot of people's side, I
I
believe.
believe that intersection for that reason.
Oh, I know, I do too.
I'm going on my way, just to sit there, even if it takes me longer.
I'll say the one right here at Third and Locust is the timing to me feels very off. You sit there very long.
I don't ever think that one is bad. Is that one just as bad, Mary?
It's not as bad.
It's not as bad, but it's still not right.
But it's not right. Heather, we were told that the state synced that light with the lights at Fifth Street and the lights at Third Street. The state set that, and, because I know from, that went in while I was on council, and we kept trying and trying.
But I
And
thought there was a sensor for the north-south.
There is a loop.
there is a loop, but
I think it only,
It's the timing that, PennDOT
set the timing.
the timing, the timing runs during the day, but before 7 a.m., it's on the sensor. At least I know at Fifth and Locust, it's normally
Right.
green for
That just-
462,
I
but
mean,
if
it
you hit the
seems
sensor
like-
before 7, it'll
Well, that's
flip
one
for
of
you.
it. We should fix it anyway. We can look at the permit on
Yeah, I mean,
Good
whatever
luck.
that's awful.
I avoid it too.
And then, like Saturday night when you're coming out, and Sunday morning you're coming out of mass.
Church.
And it's like, oh my gosh, do you want to deal with the highway light, up there, or do you want to have to come out on the Locust and deal with that light? Everything, so, I don't know. Does anyone else have any other suggestions?
So the Market House was 1.5 million? And now that
that.
really.
The Marcus House ended up being close to 2 million, a little over 2, with all
We had
all
to
in.
pay for at least half of that.
At least half, and there's other costs that did not count towards the grant that are all totaled in the final cost.
So now we have to turn around and dish out another 500 for a grant?
So, yes. Yeah, the total grant amount was around 3 million. The Market House was 2 million of that plus added costs, and so we have to finish out. So 1.5 million of that was grant money, 1.5 of that is ours.
What happens if we don't?
Then we risk losing phase 1 money.
We'd have to pay that all back, or
Or
else
never get
actually not
reimbursed.
not getting reimbursed from the
But
state.
at this point, it's almost like, I can't see coming up with 500, I can't see sitting there coming up with ideas to how we can spend $1 million when we don't have it. Well, we're just looking for ways to spend it, it's ridiculous, we don't have it purpose. There are some things on here that we do, and I don't disagree with, but, for the parking lot, well, $40,000, that's fine. We can pay for that, and that's still less than $500,000. But for digital signage for River Park, 200,000? That's just spending money just so we can get the grant. Doesn't make sense to me.
We already have the grant. We have been awarded that. If we
I
want to
understand.
surrender those funds, then we simply lose all the money that we're expecting. And the money we're getting back from the state is more than what this is.
How much more?
So we're getting around $1 million back for phase 1. We're spending about $500,000
Right.
here,
So we don't get
plus another $500,000 that'll be reimbursed of this money. So the $1 million here, $500,000 of that is phase 2 grant money. $500,000 of that is borough money. So about 1.5 million total we'll get back out of the 3 million of the total grant. Does that make sense? So we're not looking to spend $1 million
No,
of borough
It
money.
doesn't make sense.
Each phase is a 50-50 match.
Correct.
So
So the
just
first phase,
was 2 million.
Was
We'll
2
get
million.
about $1 million back from the state.
right,
The second phase is around $1 million. We'll get around 500,000 back from the state.
right, so we get $1.5 million back.
Right.
But out of that $1.5 million, we have to put,
500,000 more into it.
so we're only getting $1 million then.
Right.
But if we don't do this, we lose the other,
Million, yeah.
We lose-
we lose
You won't get
the
your
grant
back.
money that we're already due from phase 1.
But we already lost it, it's gone.
No, it's coming back.
It's coming
It's
back.
coming back.
Wow.
We've already spent it. I see what you're saying, but I want that money back.
So it would cost us more at the end of the day to not do this.
Mhm.
That's the fact of the matter. To not move forward would cost us more. Stopping it now to say $500,000 is going to cost us more. Because we're obligated to the grant. Make sense?
Not sure it does.
You need to draw on a piece of paper.
So at this point,
I understand the math of it.
we spent 2 million. If we don't do this, we're out $2 million.
Not necessarily, we'll get some of that back.
No, we won't. We won't get
We won't
anything.
get any.
We won't get
We
anything
won't
if we
get
don't do
nothing.
this.
We
We
won't
don't do
get
phase
anything.
two, we get nothing back.
We don't finish the
So-
second phase, or plan for it, or get into it.
Yeah, we
Commit to
spent
it,
$2
we won't
million.
get the money back.
We won't spend 500,000 on phase two.
We won't
That's
spend
true.
500,000 on
But
phase
we'll lose $1
2.
million in phase one.
So we've spent 200,000.
It'll cost us $500,000 not to do this.
If we do this, we get $1,000, or we get $1 million back. And then, once we do this, we get another $500,000 back. So, like Todd said, if we don't do this, it's costing us $500,000 more than if we do this.
Right. And then we don't get any of this on top of it.
I don't disagree, Eric, that it's a frustrating position to be in. That we are in a tight budget cycle, and we're looking for ways to spend money, it feels awkward.
It was really awkward.
This grant, the original grant discussion, most of us here, Todd, I think you were on council when they had this discussion, you probably don't know how involved council was. The idea was to spend around $800,000 to repair the market house in the interior and spend $2.some million on a parking structure. And that was the goal. Jake?
Jake.
Jake, can you go see Officer Miller, please?
Got a parking ticket.
Speaking of parking tickets, Jake just
Well,
has
don't tow me, man. Okay? Don't tow me.
So that was the original concept plan that was bounced around, is just do some renovations inside the market house and build a parking structure. So concept plans were drawn up to build a 2, 3, or 4-story parking structure in the parking lot behind Burning Bridge Antiques. That then shifted when we got the proposals to utilize the market house, and when CHI was awarded the contract, we shifted the value or the cost and dumped majority of the money into the market house, leaving us with just this much money for phase 2, which is for downtown development and parking related projects.
And the parking study determined that we didn't need a parking garage.
Correct.
And in the grant, we said we would base the decisions on phase 2 on that parking study. So this is why I pulled these items out, because those are items that were recommended in the parking study. But those items don't total up to enough to match that grant amount. I mean,
And
I wish the
initially-
mayor was here, we talked years ago, Pete, you probably remember that parking surface lot that was over here off of 2nd,
Right. Between Perry and
was it
Union.
Perry?
Between Perry and Union 2nd and 3rd.
Yes, there was a area in the back of those.
Right.
We talked about building a surface lot back years ago. That never came to fruition. So this is where we stand right now is, and honestly, I say we have 200,000 left. We won't, because I think repairing the roof in the market house is a good project and get that done. That's probably going to be about half that money.
This is why, you always hear people talk about being grant poor.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, the grant is great and it seems like it's free money, but you gotta match it. And, we're grant poor.
One of my first conversations with Bill Coy, he and I drove around town when I first came on board here, and we had talked about putting up "Welcome to Columbia" signs back then. And when we talked about it, we got prices. We had realized, hey, let's roll it into the RACD grant, And I think that's a great use of that money, because it really is truly drawing people to the downtown. So we found 3 locations we liked. One is on Locust in Front, 3rd Street coming off of the interchange, and Lancaster Avenue coming into town. And putting nice, big, beautiful marquee signs, if you will, in those locations. Welcome to Columbia. Then we talked about the idea, and it's in the study, about doing wayfinding signs downtown, which we have concept plans for drawn up on those. But Eric, all that means nothing. I feel your frustration. It feels frustrating to look for ways to spend more money right now. But I don't want to lose the original grant money.
The match money comes from which fund?
The match money comes out of Fund 30, which is the money we got from the bond.
So Mark, am I correct in saying the reason why we're doing this is because the money was originally going to go to what was taking place at River Park, but because of the construction and everything, so then what will happen when we spend this money and then you're ready to do that?
We'll have to look
So
for other
we
funding
had-
sources.
We had looked at, you're right, Barb, we had looked at doing phase 3-1 of the River Park, which was improving the parking around the existing facility, and running the utilities and
Right.
the access road back to phase 3. With the changes in PennDOT's schedule, we realized that we don't want to spend the money to do all that if we can't get in there and actually do the work for another 8, maybe 10 years. So we don't know how long it's going to take.
What if they can do it for us?
So we've redirected the RECP Phase 2 money to then do other projects.
I was thinking some of that space for staging,
I mean, like electrical back there?
and if they can't, if they have to put heavy equipment over, they're gonna have to fix that culvert.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way, so yeah, maybe they'll end up doing it for us. Then we don't have to deal with Army Corps of Engineers and all the rest of them.
I'm questioning the digital sign at River Park. I mean, I want a digital sign for the community, but I don't think the River Park is the place to put it, just because it's more or less
Isolated.
out of the way. I don't find that to be a central location for the people of Columbia to find information. It seems like an expensive sign to have for high tide. I mean, we don't deal with tides, but,
Our
yeah.
logic there is that one of the things that we've struggled with is getting the 100-some thousand people who come into the River Park up into town. So to have a sign there and tell them, hey, Market Road is open on Saturday and this and that, just is a way of communicating to people down there, as well as being an informational sign for events going on at the River Park and/or emergencies. So that's why we thought about putting it down there. If there's another location you think, all open to whatever.
If you could sell advertising.
Problem?
It's really designed to get people down to River Park,
Up
into town,
into
not
town.
necessarily dispense information.
Well, I'd say both. I think both. I think a lot of our residents are there too. It's just another way. And if there's another location, we think a digital sign belongs.
Can we get 2 for $200,000? One for down there, one somewhere else. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's probably way too much. I was trying to
Well, maybe if
be
we
as
have it in
conservative
there,
as possible, and
and
then
then,
we can get 2 for that
and then we
price.
could maybe get 2 for that price.
Where would you think
Maybe there's a
everyone would
go-go
go?
sale going on, Black Friday sale.
Do you want, we could, the concept we had not talked about, I know Todd, you and I talked about it a while ago, was making the welcome signs digital signs. So when you come into town, there's stuff there. I personally like kind of a static monument sign as a welcome to Columbia as a separate thing.
Why can't you incorporate both though?
You could.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I'd rather have 3 or 4 welcome to Columbia, static and then digital signs for whether it's events happening in Columbia or whatever. And then I bet you if you did 3 or 4 of those, that would equal $1 million, no problem at all. With that and the way signs. Signs.
We believe that. Sure.
I do want to see, I do want to see the improvements back in here though, and with the parking and things like that. I mean, if we can get rid of that knee wall, and make the lot a little wider so that when, you know, some of our officers that have large trucks are parked in those first spaces.
Get around. Yeah.
Can get around it, I'm just giving you a hard time now. But, you know, I think as vehicles have gotten bigger and we're in Old Town, you know, things tend to get really tight. Especially when you have properties, houses that are right on the property line when you're exiting there. I mean, that gets tight too. So anything we can do to make improvements back there, I think is key. That'll be helpful. And I think having lights along Sadie Lane, I mean, if you've ever been to, like, there are several places over in York that have those outside lightings and stuff. That's really nice. I mean, it gives it a nice, a nice ambiance. And if we're trying to encourage more use, more events at the park, at the Market House, I mean, that'd be a nice draw.
Are any of these things in the current budget?
No,
I didn't see them. The only one I was thinking is possibly the Park Mobile.
no, none of these are in the current budget.
I had some ideas, but probably none of them qualify. Can I just share them?
Please.
You can just say no.
That's what we're here to, that's what this is about.
How about fixing the clock tower? That fit?
You know, I was thinking that when he was talking and then
Yeah,
it
same
flew
here.
out of my head. It flew out of my head.
Might make some residents happy if we got the time right.
Fix the clock tower. And make it dong, like really, really loud.
I don't think they would enjoy that, huh?
That's actually a big bronze bell up there.
Does it ding?
It's-
Does it make noise?
You don't hear it?
You didn't just hear it, just went off.
Yeah.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Just now. happened.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear it while we're in our bedroom.
Is it annoying?
No, it's nice.
Between that and the
It's
train?
just annoying that it's 5 minutes off.
Yeah, right.
You hear it while you're sitting in here?
Yeah, you're like, you hear the ding and then you're like, dang it, I missed the first 5 minutes of my show.
So that was one idea.
I just ran 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock.
Security cameras, I know that we need some replaced, some new, some more perhaps. Does that fit within?
That's it, yeah. It's a good idea.
The Public Works building that we have, I know that we need an entrance to it. I mean, there's nothing paved there, there's nothing even exists. I don't even know if we have the land yet for that. But is there anything that we can incorporate from the new Public Works building into this grant?
No, we asked, and that does not qualify.
How about we had talked about a economy of scale parking solution for residents who want to create a parking space
Alley
behind
parking.
their house to free up parking on the street.
I like that idea.
But how do we do that? Like, what does that look like?
I'm not saying this is right, but this is kind of what I'm partnering with a construction firm or whatever that might be. Maybe you can put it out for bid. I don't know, see how many people, we'll get a feel for how many people will want to do it and, you know, offer an economy of scale price for folks that, I don't know if we manage the project or
But
how looks.
that wouldn't cost us anything.
I don't know.
Subsidize it with the.
Subsidize it
We pay for
or.
it, we pay
That's
for it,
true.
yeah. We talked about paving the alleys and putting the parking, rear parking in for all as many units as we can. That was a couple of years ago, we were talking about.
I mean, I don't know how it fleshes out.
I mean, that would be a good parking solution for the town.
Yes, it would. And I'm definitely for that.
And there's a lot.
I also
back there.
had thought before that I would like to, hold on one sec, that I would like to offer anyone that wants to put the parking behind their house, that there's no permit fee to do that. As long as, you know, we would just have to have Derek review it to make sure that
Stormwater.
there's no stormwater issues. But I wouldn't want to charge for that then, I think that,
There's a fee.
well, there is a fee, but we would absorb that because we're trying to encourage people parking on our house.
No, but, what's the one fee for?
Oh, the stormwater fee, yeah.
That can add up real quick if you put a decent parking lot there.
Yeah. Steve?
Yes. The parking study was done how long ago? And
4
sometimes on
years.
Friday, or on Fridays on the weekends, if the old PERS parking area was to be used as a parking garage or such a way that would be first ground, and I'll build a platform, and if you need to expand it, you can build more on top. Why, I wanted to ask, if that parking study was done a few years ago before the various projects completed here, does that change the use? Because when you come down here on a Friday or Saturday weekend, parking is premium. And if you had a parking garage, with available parking, you'd be able to draw more people.
I agree, but I didn't want to argue that study. The study was bad timing, it was before COVID, or right
Yeah.
before COVID.
First before COVID and in the winter times.
Businesses were probably,
You didn't have that project over there completed, you didn't have the hotel complete, or the...
well, technically, they're supposed to be covered now.
Right.
But our business grew probably, downtown business probably grew 50-60% in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So that attraction, the Market House opened up after it was closed during the parking study. And there's a lot of things that changed since that market study.
Yep.
And it was in the wintertime.
How would we ever afford a parking garage at this point?
Right?
That's gonna be a lot more than this.
It absolutely is. If you remember a couple of years ago, we put in for another round of RACP allocations. We have money set aside for downtown parking in a separate allocation. A full-on parking garage, I would guess would be $3 million up to construct.
And that's if we had a place to do it.
Other communities
Right.
have done it and raised funds through different means to do it. They got for a lot of grant money to put them in. I think it's possible, and it's still on our radar to look at a location to put in a structured parking somewhere in the downtown. I think it's a good idea. I think we're getting to the point where if we want to keep attracting businesses, we need something. I'll say this as a teaser, I would like to have a more full discussion on parking at our February workshops. I think we have to look at in redevelopment in our downtown area. If all the redevelopment projects keep running up against a parking issue, we're going to discourage redevelopment downtown. So we have to have that bigger discussion. I want to do that at the upcoming workshop. But I think looking at that, Steve, you're right. I think we have to look at how much has changed, because the data collection was done, I think, in 19 in the winter time, and significant changes have happened since that study was done.
No, it was 19.
The data was
It
in 19,
right
the study was
before we-
released in 20.
No, it was right before we got on council,
Yeah.
because I remember
Yeah.
sitting here before I was even sworn in and hearing the results of it.
Yeah.
So what year was that?
19, the end of 19. Yeah, Mary?
Heather, one of the things I seem to remember, which struck me about putting the parking garage over there, was that the two houses to the east of that parking lot would have to be acquired to give you enough area for a good return on your investment up there. You need those other two properties before you can think about putting, a parking garage there. And that just struck me when I heard that.
And even then,
It's tight.
the study, it was like, what, 30 years before you would see
Return.
return?
The price per space was unbelievable.
Mhm.
I say something?
Yep.
You know, I'm from Philly, and the parking down there is a nightmare. And I always said, if I was mayor of Philadelphia, I would decree that everybody who has a garage in their house must put their car in the garage.
Right.
Of course, that'll never happen. But I wondered, how is the housing around here? Are there garages? I don't really know. Are there garages and houses?
Garages, there are people with parking behind their house and they choose not to use it.
So I wondered if you could say, you have to park, if you've got a garage, you have to use it.
I don't think we can mandate that. Yeah.
Because down there, and probably here too, people had multiple cars. And, you know, they'd be sitting out in the street and they never moved them. But they could put them in the garage. You could take the 35-year-old big wheel out of their garages and all their junk out of the garages, put the car in there where it should be, and that would ease the parking problem. I mean, it was a pet peeve of mine in Philly. But nobody did. So I had my car in my garage, and all the houses in my neighborhood had garages. But nobody had their cars in the garages. You know, they were on the street, and they had 2, 3 other cars, and they didn't park. And I would say, oh, no, I parked my car in the garage, and it protects it from the weather, the sun, all that. And nobody can steal the tires or break into the car, and
I know.
it eases the park. And in Philly, they'll shoot you during a snowstorm because you took their spot. So, you know, I just wondered if you guys ever thought about maybe encouraging the citizens to park in their garages? Or?
Well, we do, and we encourage them, if you have parking behind your house, to park back there, but drive up through the alleys and you'll see all the parking spaces behind houses and no one's in them, but yet you go out in the front and all the streets are clogged because you end up with people like my daughter's mentality. If she parked on her off-street parking, she was further from the house than if she parked on the street.
Right. Yeah. Well,
by 50 feet. By 50 feet, right. Like, I don't get it, but, you know.
In the dark and in the rain, I don't blame her.
Well, no, I don't either. And there were times where, you know, or when, you know, I broke my ankle, and I mean, I parked out front, but, you know.
well, the people in my neighborhood, I would say, you know, you should park the car in the garage for all these good reasons. And they would say, well, it don't fit. It does fit. The cars will fit. An SUV would fit in those garages in Philly. But people were just convinced for some reason that they wouldn't fit, so they wouldn't even try. And the real reason is because they had all their junk in there. That was their storage bin. Guys, if I could make that happen in Columbia, I'd be proud.
Oh, I know, yeah. All right.
Heather,
Yes, Frank.
just need you to straighten me out. The more I heard, the worse I got. Mark, what I thought I heard, you had said, if we got all our grants, we got our match, and the money comes through, and the match, everything worked, but we're still gonna be a couple $100,000 in the hole. And then I hear we're looking for other projects where I thought we would be eliminating projects if we didn't have the money. This is what I thought I heard you say.
No.
Okay, we haven't gotten any money yet back from the
Right.
state. So we have to spend as much of the state money that we are awarded up to with a certain tolerance. I think it's within 5% of the total state amount. The state amount was about 1.5 million, and we're spending about 1.5 million. So the first half of the grant was about 2 million. So we still have to spend the other $500,000 of the state money and match that at a 50-50 match to get the full money returned to us. Does that make sense?
So if you don't spend it, you're not gonna get it.
Correct.
Right.
If we don't match 50% of the total grant amount, we won't get any reimbursement at all.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep.
So we're locked in to finishing this grant project or losing that money.
And grants ain't what they seem to be.
Correct.
Wow.
That's why.
I mean,
we're-
they are if they're done properly. If it's done, if it's all,
The rack peas are
You know,
horrible.
yeah, the rack pea
The
was.
rack pea was the Turkey Hill experience, and I will never forget our finance person at the time saying she would never do one again. Never.
Yeah.
You know what, at conferences, every person I've talked to that has done a rack pea has all said the same thing. We will never do that program again.
I was surprised that this happened again. I thought, Georgiana, never do it
Is the
again.
rat pea the one that's come to us through the disease that went around?
No.
No.
Which one is that?
That's the
ARPA.
American Recovery Act fund.
Yeah, that's the
That's
ARPA,
that one.
and that's not a matching grant or anything.
That's not a grant, that's just
Is
money.
that added into any of this that we're trying to get
No.
done?
No.
No.
You can't.
It can't be, it goes into the general fund, not capital.
Wow.
Want to do a parking study with this money?
No. You got construction.
No, we've already done the parking study.
The parking study that was, the one we did with Walker was to get the recommendations for phase 2.
Mhm.
Heather, we talked about parking garage. I can remember when I was on council, and I think Norm was the borough manager, they had tried everything to put a garage up where the garment factory was, up on where the business is at on the street. They said it would never pay for itself.
Nope.
The amount of money it would cost to build it, never.
Well, that's what pretty much Walker said.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that I have seen that seemed to be of value, or when we build just a 2-story structure where you're parking underneath it on the ground floor, you have 1 story up, those become more affordable. York has one right downtown. Those get closer. The higher you get, the more expensive they are, and the harder it is to get your return on. Remember numbers years ago, they say a surface space costs around $13,000 to pave, and a structured parking space is around $60,000 a space.
And if you're not charging for parking, it'll never pay for itself. So,
And you can charge Philly rates. I was just down there this past weekend, and you can spend $40 and get 4 hours of parking. If you find a spot in a safe neighborhood.
Lots of empty garages.
No, they're full. They're all full.
What's our next step?
Well, we got some recommendations. We can add these costs in. I love the idea of the clock tower. That's what we're going to put in there. We can look at if we want to expand the security cameras out. We don't have numbers yet for the Columbia Crossing structure. We'll find out what those numbers are and if that can be put into this. The Market House roof, Derek's coming back in to get up there and look at that and have his engineer and crawl around out there and look, get numbers on it.
we can just get numbers for all these and then come back to council and say, all right, here's what we have, which do we want to do, not do?
Right, so we'll get a final list together. But I appreciate the discussion about getting some more ideas.
I like the idea about the parking spaces.
Yes,
Downtown, I like, you like rear property parking spaces.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
Okay. We'll work on it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Anything else? Mark, I don't see you on here as staff comments and questions or whatever. Did you have anything you wanted to add this evening? No?
Thank you.
All right, Borough Council comments. We can start with Councilperson Stahl this time.
Yeah, just wanted to point out an email from Mitch Young today, but just mentioning how the streets are clean, the leaves are picked up on a regular basis, and just big thanks and hats off to the crew and all those hours. Looks good out there.
Yeah, it seemed like the trees dropped all at once this year, and you guys have been
Keeping
doing
up
a great
fast.
job.
He said, to quote him, he said, "It's not luck that the streets are clean. It's hard work." So.
Yep. All right, Councilperson Price.
I'm good, thanks. No.
Nothing.
I'd like to welcome the Wendells to Columbia.
Oh, thank
Glad you came. And also with this being, I don't know, like Kurt and Sylvia's last meeting next week, I think it'd be a good idea, just, thank you. And I was wondering if Mr. Canfield got a welcome or a congratulatory.
It's on our list to do, to make sure we get it done.
Okay, I
I forgot. That should have been in the please sign folder.
Yeah, I may have asked you that before, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah. But we'll make sure it gets one.
Thanks for reminding me.
Well, then I would just like to say publicly, thank you to Sylvia and Kurt for doing such a great job.
Yes.
In the Parks and Rec the past few years.
Going back to the fees, and the dog care costs. This might be a silly question, I don't know. I think it doesn't apply to cats.
Yeah.
What?
It's cats.
Because 9 times out of 10, we never determined who the cats belong to. And our police aren't picking up the cats.
We try to avoid.
That's a good enough answer for me, I was just curious. You never know unless you ask. Text me though.
Protect my gun. All right. Anything else?
Anyone who owns cats knows that the cats actually own you, you don't own them, so they probably look at it the other way.
I have one thing that I would like to say. I have a statement that I would like to read. Last week, allegations of sunshine violations were made specifically related to posting agendas online for the HARB meeting held November 8th and the Planning Commission meeting held November 21st. One of the requirements of the Sunshine Act is that agendas for advertised public meetings be posted at the location of the meeting at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting. In both cases, that was done. The Act also stipulates that if an agency has a public website, the agenda must also be posted on the public website. In both cases, that was not done. As soon as we were informed the agendas were not there, steps were taken to remedy the situation. This was not an intentional act, but rather an oversight. Everyone involved will be given a refresher on the Sunshine Act and all of its requirements. As a note, the allegation regarding the zoning hearing board meeting for November was unfounded. While the meeting was advertised, the Act has no requirements for notification of canceled meetings. While not a sunshine requirement, it is good practice to properly communicate cancellations, and procedures are being put in place to make communication consistent in the future. As stated before, none of these issues were intentional. They were just oversights. Regardless, we're taking steps to refresh the education for all involved and setting processes up to ensure proper and consistent communication. We understand the recent actions have fallen short of the expectations for local government meetings, and we are committed to doing better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
May I ask who will pay for the ad? Because I was understanding that the people that were coming for zoning withdrew. So who pays for the ad when it goes in the paper? Do they have to pay for that, or do we still have to pay? That's regardless whether they withdrew.
They pay for half as part of their fee. I'll talk to Evan and see if we can still charge them.
I was just curious
Yeah.
because I don't think it's cheap for the ads. That's
No,
what-
it's not. We talked about it. I haven't gotten the final answer.
Okay, well, thank you
But
for
thank
what
you.
you've done. Thank you.
All right, announcement of next meeting at 7 p.m. on December 12th, 2023. Council will hold a regularly scheduled meeting. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Price, second by Councilperson Stahl, to adjourn at 8:24 PM. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned.